Good morning, friends. So this morning, of course, we're gathered in here for Sunday school because we have some special guests with us, Mina and Gennady Podaisky, who are going to give us an update on what's going on with their ministry in Ukraine. And so we'll turn it over to them because we know that they have a lot to say and you'll have a lot of questions. So, Podaiskys.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Buenos días.
It is good to be here, and Wingate Baptist Church has a special place in our hearts since we started coming here, I don't remember, 16, 17 years ago. Thank you, Bill and Marie, for inviting us and being a part of our lives and a part of our ministry. As you can see, no, you cannot see anything, but you will be seeing soon on the projection, on the screens. In this, whatever time we will have here, we will give you some general overview of our ministries, what we have been doing in Kyiv, Ukraine. And during worship time, we will give you a little bit more details and some stories of what is happening there. And as you all heard and know, that this war is becoming a war in between good and evil, darkness and light, and Ukraine is on the forefront of democracy, protecting West from the we know whom. So 20 years ago we heard the voice of the Lord who sent us to Kyiv, Ukraine. And it was not by mistake. We were planning to go somewhere to serve the Lord, but the Lord sent us to Kyiv. And the Kyiv next, yeah. Kyiv, before it was pronounced Kiev, but now more proper way of saying is Kyiv. Kyiv. And Kyiv is about 4 million population, and it is a beautiful city as you can see, and we had cold winters, lots of snow in there, and right now it is almost springtime, but it is still freezing in the night. When we got there 20 years ago, that was a picture of our kids, how they look like, and that was a daycare center, local Ukrainian daycare center, which we put them in almost immediately to learn Russian and Ukrainian language. And 20 years later, that's how they look like. And our oldest Bogdan is in Gardner-Webb University here in North Carolina. Mark, which is on the other side from me, away from me, next to Mina, he is in Milwaukee. He finished his degree last year and now applying into medical schools, and he wants to come to North Carolina, so that is a big prayer request for us. And Anna Maria, our only daughter, she is in Chicago studying her medical theater degree. Here is a short overview of what we have been doing in Kyiv, Ukraine. As you can see, our ministry has evolved, took different forms and shapes, except the Village of Hope, which we stayed, and that was the first and main ministry why we came to Kyiv, Ukraine. We will be showing you a little bit more about Village of Hope and what's happening there. We came to Kyiv, Ukraine to help Ukrainian Baptist Union to minister to street children. And that is a central vokzal or central train station, which is, you can see trains and winter, and there were thousands of street children which were congregated in different places, and you can see some of them, and because you don't see their hands, those kids are sniffing glue. So that was one of the hardest part which we had to deal, kids sniffing glue, and of course being hungry, and in winter, and those were their Christmas gifts. We brought them Christmas gifts to the train station. So our first facet of ministry was ministry to street children. But then it evolved into the Village of Hope, because when we were going and feeding children on the streets, they were staying on the streets, and it was not correct, right way of approaching that problem, that issue. So we started thinking about long-term solution for that problem, and the Village of Hope was one of the solutions. And that was a former pioneer youth communist camp just outside Kiev, and that's how it looked when we came there first time, and actually Bill came there first, even before us, and we started renovating that property. Next. And that is a statue of a pioneer or youth communist kid, and our kids were climbing and playing like they were just normal kids. Next. And that was the first building to be renovated, the Lighthouse, and our kids were helping us. So that was a memorable time for us and for kids. And for kids, Kiev is a home, because that's where they grew up, and they participated with us in our ministries. Next.
Yeah, we have many teams that came. About 90% of the teams that came from North Carolina. Bill and Marie were gracious enough to help us with the teams. They were our coordinators of the teams, and they will welcome the teams and help them through the week that they will be there, and farewell them, and then welcome the next team that came after that. This is one of the teams, and this is how it looked when the Lighthouse was finished. Our children help tore some of the walls down and move some of the bricks, so they feel part of the Village of Hope, and there's a connection to that. This is a daycare that was built. It used to be a foster family home, and we had a family that had children in there, and they wanted to take up to 10, just if you go back, up to 10 children, but the government gave them a house, and that's why they move out. But this is a Christian daycare center. It's also, it goes up to 4th grade. So they've been gradually making it into an Christian elementary school, which for you guys doesn't mean much, but in Ukraine we don't have Christian schools, so this is a really big revolutionary thing to have a Christian school. Go ahead, the next one. This is the Malsev foster family, the children. This is our first foster family. They had 2 biological girls, and they fostered 6 boys. All of the boys came in at the age of 5, 6, 7 was the oldest, up to even 3, the youngest, and all of them graduated. It means they all grew up, they went to college, and the one with the white shirt got married, had a child this summer. He's serving in the military at this moment. 3 of the children, these are the first 2 that came in, these 2 children are right now in Italy, living in Italy. Okay, next. This is a house where they used to live. They graduated, the family moved out in the fall. So that house was empty, and we were about to start getting some refugees from Belarus. But then they closed the border, which was very good that we didn't have any refugees from Belarus at this moment in there. That will not be a good thing. This is the Labada foster family, one of our other foster families. The man in the middle in the back was the dad, and he died. Anatoly died. Some of you have heard this because we share this with you guys. So 4 years ago, she's a widow, and she has some foster children. The next picture, these are the youngest that she has taken. Before the war started, she sent the children to it's a sanatorium, almost like an orphanage where they take care of the kids so that they will not hear the bombing and the sirens that were going on. And so the children, so far as we know, they are okay. This is the Teriatnikov foster family. They had 12 foster children, and just by the grace of God, 3 of their own plus the 12 foster kids. By the grace of God, they were able to contact some organization that gave them a house in the southern, semi-eastern part of the country, and they move out in the fall. And we couldn't understand. It's like, wow, at once we lose one family, we lose the other family, we need to fix the houses and bring more families in. But then in November, although you guys didn't know, the country knew that the war was coming, and we were all preparing for the war. And so we knew that we had to wait until after the war to bring any families in, which was a very God-given timing for us, because Bucha, which is where the camp is one of the worst places to be. It's in the north part, and it's where all those little towns, Irpin, Bucha, Kastomel, you might hear these names in the news, is where the Russians are stuck and cannot come into Kiev. And so they're destroying everything in those cities while they're waiting to come into Kiev. And so that would have been a very bad thing to try to evacuate that many children at this time. For those that have come to Kiev or to Ukraine, the first thing you do when you enter a house is you take out your shoes, and then you look. You see there's some pink house shoes in there, and you just look for any house shoes and you just pick them up and wear them yourself. You need to ask if they're there, they're for you, because the owners of the house already have their shoes on them, so the ones that are there are extra for the guests. Just yesterday I bought some extra shoes for anybody that comes to my house. Here I am playing with some of the kids.
In this past 2 years since COVID started, we have been doing Bible studies online in several groups. So we were not just sitting and waiting until the pandemic will be over. We were teaching, I was teaching, and that was one of my first lessons on the book of Revelation. People were asking me about end times, what's happening, what is coming. So I decided to teach on the book of Revelation, and I was teaching them about different biblical types of or genres of literature. So we were having, regular meetings, sometimes twice per week, with the people whom we care, whom we were ministering to. And that is one of the meetings right after we got vaccinated and were able to meet face to face. That is our living room, and people, 1/3 of them is still in Kiev, 1/3 is somewhere in Ukraine, in the west, and few people got out and now in the Eastern or Western Europe, spreading around. Next.
When we see these pictures, this had never happened to us before, is that we're looking at our house and we don't know if we will see what you see. So far the house is standing, but they might bomb it, so we might not be able to see this again.
Yeah, all our stuff is there, our car is there, our dog is there, and the owner, at least we were renting the house, praise God, and the owner, which lives next door, she is taking care of it. This picture is the last picture before we came to the States, and that was 2nd of December of 2021. And people are sending you greetings, and we told them that we will show it over here. So that is the last kind of farewell meeting which we had with our home group. Next.
So 2 years ago, we were having COVID like you guys had, and we had seasons of quarantine and seasons of lockdown. Lockdown meant you cannot get out of your house, and you must go, if you need some groceries, to the closest store, which is usually 1 block away from your house, because there are many little stores everywhere. And so, next picture, it was gonna be Thanksgiving, and we normally celebrate Thanksgiving together. And so what we decided to do is I prepare all of the Thanksgiving meal, and then next we put it in different packages per family, and then Gennady went and delivered it to each member of our Bible study group. And then at 7 o'clock, when we normally would have met, we connected and we all had Thanksgiving online with each other. And those plates, which are very common, those plates were given by, in one of the churches that we had spoken before, they gave us those plates. So I gave those plates to the people, and they liked them so much, because we don't have such pretty plates over there, that they didn't use them to eat the meal. They just put cookies and put a napkin to save them. So they save the plates, every year. And so this last year, this last end of November, we were able to meet face to face. And so here we're celebrating with plates again, and they're going to take them and the napkins, and they don't want to use them. And this is our Bible study. Finally, we were able to meet.
A big part of our ministry is counseling, and we started counseling, started doing premarital counseling probably 15 years ago, and that is one of our first couples. There is a sound and video. Can you play it on the previous slide? On the previous slide. Is it possible? Yeah. It's a video. No? No sound? Okay. So they were just sharing because we did premarital counseling, then they had kids, and then they had some marital problems, so we did counseling with the marital issues. Then she had some panic attacks, so we have been counseling, but they are our good friends. And right now it is becoming our probably biggest and the hardest part of what we are doing right now in the past few months, and particularly past few weeks, because people are continuously being traumatized with all what's happening there, whether they are staying there and hiding in the bunkers and bomb shelters, or running away, or in the West where they found themselves with no language skills, no job, nothing, no money, so they continuously need our support and encouragement. Even this morning, yesterday I was receiving messages from a person who is a chaplain right now in the front lines, and last evening he sent me a message, please pray for me, because this night is one of the hardest nights. We have been told that there will be attacks and we may not survive this night. Please pray for me, and if I will not make it, please tell my wife and my children that I love them very much. So what do you answer to such a person in such a need? And I'm telling about you maybe quietly, but it has been hard emotionally for me. So this morning he sent me a message, praise God, we survived, I'm alive. We had only 5 bombings in the night. So I'm encouraging and praying for him. Next. And that is picture one of the few weddings which we attended in Kyiv, Ukraine. And that is the couple which we did premarital counseling virtually last summer, whole summer. In the fall they got married. And the uniqueness of it, because the person, a man is from India and the lady is from Ukraine, Mina is from Mexico, and I'm native Russian, so we represent 4 different countries, but we are all Christian, united in this wonderful event. Next. We have been doing many marriage and parenting seminars for people, because people really didn't have skills and knowledge how to raise their children. They were kind of following their old styles under the Soviet Union communist system, how their parents raised them, but of course it's not the right way, or it is not the best way for kids, so we were teaching them combining principles of biblical principles, psychological principles, and how we own our unique blend of family from Mexican, from Russian background, and how we were treating our kids. So people were very, attentive and listening and absorbing something new which they have not heard before.
Let me give you, you can do the next one. And in this particular family seminar, they said, we want to do something unique. I said, okay. It's like, can you tell us something about Mexico and make it like a theme of Mexico? It's like, of course, and all of that I have over there. So we did, I taught them how to do burritos, and we had some chips and nachos and stuff like that. And we were teaching in here. And just to give you like the simplest example, the young people in here that I see will appreciate this. One family came in and they needed to have counseling. Their teenage daughter wanted to dye the hair blue. The dad said, no, if you dye the hair blue, you're no longer our daughter and you have to leave our home, because that means you're denying your faith. So I was able to share that my daughter wanted to dye her hair blue when she was a teenager and she was in high school. And when she says, may I dye my hair blue? And I said, of course, yes, of course. And then I said, all I could picture is she's gonna put the whole hair blue, and it's gonna look like a wig, and she's gonna look like a clown. That's what I thought. But of course I had to say yes. And because if we say yes, we build credit in the emotional bank, and they were able to influence our kids. So then I said, okay, let's talk what you can do. And I said, if you dye the whole hair blue, you're going to be like every other teenage girl that wants to dye the hair blue. What about doing highlights blue? Just a little bit here and a little bit there, and you will be so unique and so elegant. Well, she dyed her hair blue with highlights, and she was so happy with her highlights. And of course, everybody was like, oh, we never seen highlights in blue. It looks so nice. And so we were teaching them, can you compromise with your children? Can you try to say yes? The defense goes down, and then say, how can we compromise? How can we do something that pleases you and something that pleases us, and we meet each other in the middle? The family survived, they didn't get divorced, the child was not kicked out of the streets, and she was able to dye her hair with highlight blues.
Outback Ukraine is a big ministry which we started being part of about 5-6 years ago. That is ministry from Northern California, which is called JH Ranch, and it has been developed for the teenagers and for the parents. And they are going there for a week in California. But then they brought that program to Ukraine, and it is basically designed over weekend when a couple, husband and wife, or a parent-child is about 15 years old, it can be 30, 40 years old, with the parent comes, and for 2 days, almost 3 days, they are there going through the programs, and the purpose of it to bring healing in relationship between husband and wife, child and parent, themselves, and of course with God. So that became a big part of our ministry. Next one. And that is a group of volunteers, people who are volunteering in that program. Because in one of our latest meetings where we had about 50 couples and about, 40, 50, 60 maybe volunteers who were serving them. And that was a big thing because it was helping couples to reconcile and to strengthen their relationship with each other and with God. Next one.
We divide the couples that come in into teams, and this is our team. We are the coaches of this particular team. We are the more mature persons from all the volunteers, so they give us the couples that have the hardest times. We did not know at the time, because these are people we don't know. They're coming from all over Ukraine, not just Kiev.
And different churches.
From different churches. It's a multi-denominational ministry, so some can be Baptist or Charismatic or Pentecostal, or they can be non-Christians, and they have nothing that they know. And so in this particular team that we were with, at the end, they come Friday night, and on Sunday after lunch, 3 of these couples were in the verge of divorce. 1 of the couples were already separated for several months. And by the end, they all renewed their marital vows to each other. So this is a big thing. The other thing that happens in the camp is that after the camp, some people have never read a Bible. They don't even have a Bible, so we give them Bibles, and we teach them how to read the Bible. And we start a discipleship. We start different discipleship groups all over the country for 12 weeks to teach those that either make a profession of faith or they want to know more about the faith. And so this is a ministry that takes a lot of time through the year, even though it's just a weekend. And this is our core group. This is in the Village of Hope. We are able to connect our ministries. So even though there's a camp, the first Outback camp was done in the Village of Hope. And this is a retreat that we did to just train and build camaraderie within our leadership. The top right lady next to the guy who has a yellow t-shirt. She called me the second day of the war. It was 2 a.m. my time. And she says, Mina, can you talk? And when we receive a call from Ukraine, we always talk. We said, of course. She says, I'm having a panic attack. I need your peace. So we talked for an hour. At the end of the hour, we're already laughing and joking. She asked, if any of my 3 children survive, can you make sure that they make it to their aunt in Italy? Not if they survive, if any of the 3 children survive. They were in the basement of their house, in a bunker, in an unfinished basement, for probably 15 days, with no running water and very little food.
But now they left that place, they evacuated, and some of them are in Italy, and some other people spread all over Europe. And that was our leadership team for the program Outback Ukraine. Next. And that is how we were preparing and building a team. That is our retreat, and we were planning to have in May of 2022, we were planning to have 2 of those Outback camps, but obviously it will not happen. So we were playing games, building relationships, having fun, and now we are all spread all over the world. Next one. That is how we were going into the camp and coming back, and there are some donations. You can see TJ Maxx, a bag. Yeah, so we brought some stuff which has been donated to us, so we're going a couple of days before, arranging everything. That was a big part of our ministry. Next. And after the camps, we are having leadership development meetings, and we are training and helping people to continue their meetings, relationship with each other, and continue on that path. Next.
Go ahead and do the next one. That's a video that you won't be able to see, but the Lord gave me the cherry on the top by sending some Mexicans to Kiev. And so we meet once a month, and we just have camaraderie. 5 of the Mexicans were actually, we had left Ukraine early December. It was a scheduled trip, so we did not evacuate, although we semi-evacuate, because we knew the war was coming. And so we left 5 Mexicans in our home, because where they live is in an apartment building, and they will bomb that one. So they said, could we come to your home? And so they stayed there for 5 days in a cellar that we have. After they left, a Ukrainian family came in. So we had different people come and go in our home, because we had food. We have bought food, and we have gathered water. We have a big bathtub, and when the war started, we said, let's save all the water in the bathtub because we can filter it. Go ahead, next.
Here are some of the pictures which I probably will not be explaining. We lived in Kiev, which is north central part, and of course that area in pink or light brown is the area which has been at war for the last 8 years, and Crimean Peninsula on the south in yellow has been annexed 8 years ago. Next. Here is some projections, and that's what's happening right now there. Ways of Russian military is attacking from the south, from the east, from north. Next. Here is, maybe you cannot see it, but Kiev and that brown part on top, that is where Russian military now is, and all that brown on the south and on the east, that is which is controlled by Russian forces right now. There is fierce fighting going on, and at this point Ukraine needs God's miracle to withstand that power and that amount of weapons and destruction which is going on. Next one. Here is the Village of Hope, Lighthouse. Kids are playing around it. Next. That is the front view of the lighthouse.
Which many of those that came know and work on that.
I already showed you these pictures, but there is a certain purpose to it. Next one. Here is a short video, which we cannot see, but that is what is left from the lighthouse. Russian tanks came and shelled that building. Praise God, nobody was there, but you can see destruction which has been done.
There's no second floor.
Nobody is there, and they came and they shelled just because of to destroy, to kill, and to steal. So that is a sad story, and this is probably not the end. We don't know extent of the whole damage to the Village of Hope, but that is a short video which a guard from across the street was able to send us. Next one. So this building is a guardhouse, we call it. It has been damaged. We don't know how much, what is the extent.
It's standing up, but we don't know what, to the extent, none of the windows are there anymore.
So we will have a lot of work to do after the war, to repair, to restore, and to bring some normalcy to people who will be living there. Next.
So we thank you, and on behalf of Ukrainian people that we know, they thank you. We all know that there is no way that Ukraine could be standing up for 25 days against such power if it wasn't for the prayers of the people. It is so obvious that God is protecting Ukraine, and that is on his side. And so continue to pray, and like the President Zelensky says, first is victory. Everything else, we will deal with it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, y'all, I think that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. But for now, we're done. We're going to let the Podaiskys rest for just a little bit before worship starts back. So y'all are welcome to stay in here. You're welcome to mingle and chat with each other as our choir prepares and as the Podaiskys rest a little bit.